First off, I want to welcome everybody. To those of you I haven't gotten a chance to meet, my name is Russell Radel. I'm the committee chair for the Education Committee for the Georgia section. And I hope you all have enjoyed the annual meeting merchandise show so far. And this is our second breakout session of today, and I'm really excited about this conversation. We were kind of joking before, a lot of times that we'll do these, there's kind of a script to it. We all know which direction we're heading. And with the gentleman that we have up here today, I almost felt bad making a script because these guys have such a wealth of knowledge. I wanted it to be a lot more conversational. So we've got topics. The overlying topic, which I don't even think is really going to define this, it was how upper management markets and brands their facilities. But I think the topic list that we've got is just going to be a great way to deep dive into some of the things that you guys deal with on a day-to-day. So first off, just to my left, Jim Arendt, Director of Golf of the City of Columbus Golf Courses.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for being here. Cary Brown, our current sitting president and the general manager of Valdosta Country Club. Cary, thank you for being here. And Wes Forrester. We used to live on the same lake.
We did.
Wes, I have a lot of respect for what Wes does, watching what happens on that lake. Wes is the director of golf at Reynolds Lake Oconee. So 7 golf courses, well, almost 7, right?
Working on it.
Working on 7. Not 8, though.
No,
I'm
not
kidding.
8.
That's a little
Something out of
inside
the
joke. Come on, terrible icebreaker. Okay, so again, what I hope out of this conversation, as we've kind of talked about, is we're going to throw out some topics and then just going to kind of talk about them and see where we go. Because I think the first one that I had on the list, it's a big, easy one, is creating club culture. You each have very different facilities in different types of places. So creating club culture amongst your employees, amongst your membership, the people that the people you serve and the people that are there to help manage you. So from a club culture standpoint, Cary, I'm gonna start with you. At Valdosta, how do you work on building that club culture?
Yeah, so Valdosta is kind of cool because we have one each of each different type of facilities, right? And so the country club there is really the only fully private that offers tennis, pool, fitness, dining, as well as golf. And so we're trying to create an experience for these people every day that gives them that private feel, right? I think it's very important. I think you and I made a mention about mission, right? So you're trying to live and create an environment every day that ties back to what your mission is. And so being fully private and giving that private experience is what we really work hard on every day, because you want that experience to be special every time that member's on property. And so, basically that's what we're trying to do every day, is just work diligently to make sure that experience is unique.
Well, you've got to engage your staff to really buy in on that mission, because
right.
Being in South Georgia, maybe not everyone's experienced what that level of service could look like, and to bring in someone who's got the right service heart, put them in front of your membership, you've got to do some work there, maybe.
Yeah, and it's difficult in this day and age. I know a lot of you guys, have staff of your own, and the transient employee these days is very hard to find and to get trained up and then to compensate properly, right? And as we see, how the wage market is fluctuating so much, it's hard, especially at the assistant level. And now, as we're seeing some of these overtime rules coming into play and all that stuff. So it's hard to find good help, and then, get them to buy into that culture is even harder. But you have to work hard at it every day for sure.
Yeah, Jim, you being a municipality, there's obviously, the government right above that you're dealing with. Do you see that creates a challenge with club culture, and how, obviously, they give you a mission statement, to serve the people. So talk about that.
Yep. So it's a little bit different from Cary's role, for sure. As a municipality, we have to make sure that we are fair to all citizens. So it's a big thing. The opportunity to access the golf course in the fairest way. You got to be extra careful not to show favoritism toward any groups, and we have a lot of charitable outings and things like that. So, so from a municipality point of view, that is a big part of it. And then there's the demand to provide the best conditions you can while keeping the prices affordable. If you go up 50 cents on a beer, I mean, they're coming after you.
Is that the same at Reynolds, Wes?
Yes, actually.
Oh, actually, yeah.
I think
All
that's
right,
the
so
same
it's all the way
everywhere.
around.
Yeah.
That's the same everywhere.
You can go up a little bit on green fees or cart fees, they understand, but don't touch the beer.
Yep.
But anyway, keeping the experience, a quality experience and affordable is a big charge, because there's always the potential threat of you're pricing the common man or common woman, you're pricing them out. Mm-hmm. So rates go up, you got to be sensitive to it, but as a municipality, that's that point of view.
Yeah, and has it been reasonable to find people to come work at the courses? Do you have any challenges there?
It certainly has been a challenge. Have recently been gone through 2 searches. Let me back up a little bit longer. So I've actually done 3 searches in the last few years, and there's not an abundance of people. And you have to also, when you see the people that are applying, you have to take in mind, is this going to be a good fit for this person, working at a municipal facility? Because if they're not going to be successful, you don't want to waste their time or yours. Mm-hmm. And so it does, it's a different animal.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of people. What Cary just mentioned about the Department of Labor has recently come up with, I think they put it in effect July 1st. The minimum amount is $43,888 that you can make. They also stated that what they anticipate it going to on January 1, which I think was somewhere around $58,000, but that's not a definite. But that throws a big wrench into everyone's budget and the ability to attract people. So, but those numbers sound about right.
Yeah. I do, yeah.
Yeah, well, and I know, just working out at Lake Oconee, obviously there's, similar challenges, rural surroundings, and, college not too far up, but that's, those folks turn over. Right. So, let the people know about, kind of what you're dealing with, trying to attract people up your way.
Yeah, I mean, we are about equally distanced between the University of Georgia here at about 55 minutes, and then Georgia State College, and they're about 45 to 50 minutes. And we're heavily reliant on college and college student kids. And so to Cary's point, we spend a lot of time training and developing them, knowing that the next semester may change completely what your whole staff looks like. And with soon to be 7 golf courses, that staff is not small.
Right.
And so trying to attract somebody that fits the culture, you mentioned the service heart, someone who enjoys the service industry, it's not as easy either, because that's a very demanding industry. So we've had to talk about price changes. We've had to go out and compare ourselves to other people and try to be more creative in the way Greensboro is and where we are and how to attract people. So we spend a lot of effort searching far and wide to find people here.
So does that go into your ownership, where the ownership is now engaged with how do we develop the community around us? I mean, I saw it out there at the lake where, they were trying to build infrastructure almost to support middle management type folks that wanted to come in and grow a family there. LOA.
Lake Oconee Academy was a big driver of younger families into our area. But to your point, 3 years ago, we realized we didn't have enough housing or affordable housing. The lake had gone to be very expensive. As they used me as an example of someone whose management style to bring their family to the lake and to afford to live around the lake wasn't what it was 10, 15 years ago. And so we now have nearly 100 beds where we can put managers and our staff, interns, overseas workers into, and I think within the next 3 years, we might double that. To be able to attract people to come to the lake, afford it. And we've even gone even a step further where We now have 4 trucks, 14 passenger vans that now drive people to and from their workplace to get them to the lake and get them to Lake Oconee where they're working, whether that's chefs, golf course maintenance, or golf course ops. They're all a part of that now.
It sounds like it may be kind of an interesting conversation with you too as well, because you've got the ear of the government, you know, and you've, you know, probably got most of the important people in Valdosta who come in.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking that all 3 of us are kind of in the similar boat where, you know, especially attracting your management staff, you have to be committed to move to all 3 of our places, right? I mean, it's not like living in a metropolis where you have a big talent pool to pull from. I've been doing Zoom interviews actually over the last month because we're in the middle of an assistant search right now, and we've got guys from Tennessee and Birmingham, Atlanta that I've been talking to, but you've got to, you know, convince them it's going to be a good move for them to come down and be a part of your facility, which puts a lot of pressure on you as well as somebody who's taken that person's life, you know, and trying to guide them on to their next step. So I think all 3 of us are challenged that way a little bit.
Yeah, and I think to his point, you can sell them on the facility, but you're almost selling yourself and the commitment you're making to them.
Yeah.
That I'm going to take an interest in who you are when you get here.
Yep.
And make sure this works and give you the attention you need to make sure you're successful. And if it doesn't work out, which sometimes it doesn't, we're going to help you be successful somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. I mean, basically asking this person to move into your, you know, your community there, and it's, you know, give and take both ways. Yeah, you know, okay, so, yeah, I wanted to change directions a little bit and talk about, you know, since we were just talking about, you know, having the ear of the ownership to, you know, to help develop the community. You each have 3 different groups of people that you know, you report to. Cary, board of directors, Wes, corporate ownership.
I report to an authority, which is like a board.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So,
It's
but
a
a government agency
council-
technically?
Council-appointed board of volunteers.
Yeah. So we'll start here and we'll go down the line because I can't wait to hear about this. How does that work?
Yeah.
Do they change much?
Yeah, so, so that's the reason I stated it like that. So to serve on the Columbus Golf Authority, they are appointed by City Council. They serve 4-year terms. They can serve 2 4-year terms. But council can appoint whoever they want to. There is no direct relation currently between who the authority might recommend would be good candidates and who council gets to review. So anybody can go to their council person and say, I'm interested in serving. Their name comes up, they take votes on it, and that's how it happens.
They get free golf?
You know, let me comment on that one. So within the last 5 years, they did vote themselves that they got free golf, which is, it wasn't a.
It's a questionable vote.
Yeah, it was definitely a questionable vote. But anyway, that's what they've done. So, you know, my job is I just roll with it. I mean, I really care more about the big picture than the small picture. But it is interesting. But it also means, you know, just like, at least like Cary anyway, you never know who might be one of your bosses, you know, down the road. So.
Yeah, that's the wild part about, you know, especially when you climb up the ladder there. It's like you get there and all of a sudden it's like, wait, my boss can change all the time? Doesn't sound safe.
Especially when they're volunteers, because volunteers don't govern, or they don't have the same strategy that investors have.
Yeah.
You know, they're not invested other than the time they come to the meeting. So it's different.
Yeah, and Cary, I think we've talked before about, you know, not necessarily knowing who the board members are going to be, but grooming, you know, and educating the next leadership at the club so that you got the right folks coming in. Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's sort of a blessing and a curse to have a board of directors, right? So you have a little bit of some stability there, knowing that if one person isn't necessarily your biggest fan, there's 10 other people in the room that might be able to champion you or for a certain cause. But in a member-owned facility, they're all your boss. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're on the board or not, and at any time, anybody could create some sort of rift that creates tension for you at the facility. But I think it's important that you are grooming those next leadership opportunities for those people to sit on that board, so that you have a dialogue with all the people that are coming in, so that you understand how they communicate, what they like, what they don't like. But it's like being a preacher sometimes. You deliver the word of God and you might say the wrong thing. It's difficult to have 500 bosses, but that's what we do every day.
Well, I can't wait
Yes, we do.
in one of our next topics, I can't wait to hear how that relationship was hopefully not too strained. All right, Wes, so.
You're not going to open that can of worms, are you, over at my
Oh,
place?
man, I can't wait. Can't wait. But Wes, so with your, so you've got, tell us about yours so I don't get the structure wrong. Who owns Reynolds and how do you deal with them?
So, yeah, let's see if I can get this straight. So Daniel Communities is basically our parent company. That's who we work with day to day. MetLife is our investment group. And so everything we do is in relationship to our mission statement, which it's very basic. It's, we're trying to create an ideal environment for those that work, live, and come visit us, because we do have a small resort component. Where this gets challenging, to Cary's point, I'm not the director of golf if it hadn't been for the relationships I built with the membership. But they don't have the final say. So I have a board of advisors that we work with every single day, and they provide feedback into what they're seeing from an experience. But we take ideas, it goes up the chain through Daniel, through our management group, and then if it has to, from a capital expenditure or something like that, goes to MetLife. So every day we're doing what Cary does, which is we're trying to say hello, build relationships. But if something doesn't go exactly the way they want, or they want to make changes, this is where the dynamic changes very quickly. There's a process you have to go through. So nothing happens overnight, nothing happens easily, and management and membership may not agree to what that direction is. So that's where we get put in the middle and try to balance those relationships.
Yeah, that had to be interesting, and what comes up next, which is, projects, renovations, facilities work. So Wes, we'll go right back to you.
Okay.
Obviously we've got, you say you've got number 7 on the way.
Number 7 on the way.
Yeah.
You mentioned 8, but it's not there yet.
It's not there yet.
That's a talking point, but yes.
So you kind of alluded to it. So there's a chain, but when you're going through a renovation and there's needs,
Right.
Are there ways to expedite things, or talk about your current renovation, how that's gone?
I think the first thing everyone needs to know about Reynolds, like Oconee, is because it's a community, they have a high thinking, probably not much different to what they have, which is they're looking at restaurants, they're looking at marinas, because we're just finishing a renovation on our 5th marina. They're looking at fitness centers, they're looking at where are our members going and we may be golf-centric, but we want to make sure that if you're not golf-centric, you're going to enjoy the facility you're around. And that could be cultural, where we've got to have enough places that they can go. Their laundry list of capital projects is as long as you can imagine in all those areas. So in order to get the 7th golf course built, it was about a 2-year process of creating data and going through that and selling it to the membership, or not membership, our ownership group, saying, hey, we went from 150 to 200,000 rounds in 2 years. Tee time compaction, how soon is it filling? We have to basically show them there's a demand.
Yeah.
And it won't happen overnight. Our senior management and us will tell our board of advisors all the time, we may have a great idea this year, it may not happen for 3, 4, 5 years, and we're not going to commit to that in the long term, which can be a difficult dynamic to have between the membership group and the ownership group, because they may have a different idea on how to grow the community. I mean, at the heart of Reynolds, like Oconee, we're a real estate company. So they're always looking for ways to help drive the property sales. And the amenities they create are amazing, but they'll take time to build, and they've got a master plan, and you just got to fit into that master plan. So you have to kind of learn what their thinking is to kind of find those avenues in there.
Yeah, that was something interesting that came up in our first breakout group today was more on gathering data and being able to show the value of what you're, either in that situation, it was the program that you were performing, but I would assume for your roles, really being able to, sell your ownership or your leadership on, the things that you're either asking for or wanting. So I'm sure, Cary, again, your renovation there was a lot going on there.
A lot happening, and we actually had to bring in outside sources to provide us that data and information so that we could turn around and sell it back to the membership from the experts, right?
Yep.
So, the board and all of us, we had done our due diligence, and we knew what the plan was and what the end goal was going to be, but, they don't like to hear it so much internally, right? So everybody who's not a part of it is always going to be smarter than the people who, are in boots on the ground, right? So we actually contracted with a couple people to provide. Club Benchmarking gave us a lot of good information, and they're a great service. Anybody that's out there in that private sector, they provide a ton of data. But it was good to get that research done and then turn around and sell it back to the membership, and we knew that we were in for a fight. Anytime you have a hefty assessment, you're sort of leveraging the end result versus what your current membership is, and people have to make that value proposition whether or not they're going to stay or not. And we actually lost 100 members after the assessment. So, and then we had to sort of restructure our dues dollars to make sure that we could float and balance and operate, right? So it was a very difficult thing to do, and now that we're on the backside of it, we're certainly reaping the benefit of it, and we're seeing a lot of people coming back. But in a small community like that, it's difficult to say, okay, we're going to commit to this renovation because we know it's the future and we know it's what we need to do to continue to move forward and to thrive. But it's hard to get somebody back once they've made that decision that they're going to go ahead and draw a line in the sand and leave. And we've actually gotten a few back, but not as many as we were thinking. And so it's difficult.
Did you see, younger families come in after that?
Yeah, we've certainly gotten younger. I think when I got there in Valdosta 15 years ago, our average age was in the late 60s, and we've already gotten it down almost into the 50s. So and that's programming, right? You've got to create programming on a day-to-day basis to create an environment to where young families want to come versus, junior league or programming for swimming, tennis, all that stuff has to fit the model, right? But yeah, it's been hard getting younger.
Yeah, we're going to deep dive more into programming for sure. But I want to hear, Jim, have you guys been through any renovations recently? Facility or golf course?
Yeah, so I have a story on that. So we have 3 facilities, and at our 36-hole facility in Columbus, Bull Creek, it was designed in 1972, really good layout, but the golf course, over 50 years, the trees have grown in toward the holes. They don't play like they were designed to play. Of course, the bunkers are in need of renovation and so on. Another one of our golf courses on the south side of town, it's a 9-hole facility. Parking lot is full every day. We basically don't charge enough. The strategy has been to, it's like a political thing. If you can keep the rates low, then people can say, yeah, I'm keeping the rates low for the common man, but you also can't maintain a golf course to the level it needs to be maintained. So it's not the best strategy. And then our third facility is in more need of renovation than the other 2 that I've already told you about. And the one 9-hole golf course is in need of an expansion. That's when I was talking about the golf course is full every day, parking lot overflowing, people turned away. So one thing, I went to a meeting, and it was probably the biggest challenge that I ever had of something that I constantly give this advice, which is when you get the answer you want, don't talk about it anymore. You need to shut up because all you're going to do is change their mind.
Yep.
So I go to a meeting about 2 years ago, and the meeting was to request city funding to pay for an architect to design renovation plans, expansion plans at one of the courses, and also, like we were talking about, needed somebody other than myself to say that it was a good idea to expand, to spend money building 9 more holes. I didn't really, even though I knew when I see a parking lot full every day, I know it's time to do it, but when the National Golf Foundation says it, it's off of me, and they're official, and they've got lengthy reports and graphs and things like that are, the public needs that, and city councilors need that. So anyway, I go to the meeting, and we're beginning talks. I'm ready to make my pitch, and it's like, we already decided to spend this money, right? Yeah, that's right. So, I know, I'm unaware. I'm at a meeting asking for it. So anyway, I was challenged to not talk anymore because all I could do was mess it up.
Yeah.
But
So you started talking about the weather?
I mean, it was a
We've had
challenge
great
because I was ready to go. But anyway, it's yeah, you got to get it off of you. You got to make it official. It's got to be answerable to the public. So then, in our case, we're looking at about $40 million worth of renovation plans and expansion at the 3 facilities. So it's a big number.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, our community, which knowing your community, I think is part of the answer. You know, our community recently invested $50 million in a new stadium for the AA Braves team. So the appetite for taking on more public debt is not really great. So we'll have to look for other funding. For example, our 9-hole golf course that's geared primarily toward junior golfers. You know, we're seeking a grant to be able to get that work done. And then on the others, I mean, I can easily produce reports that it's going to show increased revenue to help, you know, pay off some of the debt. But I got to be careful not to go stick my neck out too far.
That's the advice I heard is know when to shut up.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Yeah.
You guys
exactly.
ever use that advice? Give that advice?
I need to use that advice more, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, not up here. We want content. No, that's great. And again, 3 very different stories of how the same things that we all know needed to happen, you know, happened, and who had to answer for that, I guess, right? MetLife, major corporation, city municipality. People think that the government's got all that money, but they're spending it in all kinds of places. And then, you know, private citizen money. Somebody's got to pony up for that. So cool to hear those stories. You know, one of the things that, you know, we kind of started on was activities, programming. You know, you've got 3 very different cultures. So Jim, I'm going to start back with you and just talk about any, you know, programming or activities just kind of from an upper level that have been important to the facility, you know, over the years, recent years.
So junior golf, Columbus has had a history of having a really good junior golf program. One of the facilities is called Goblin Creek. It's named after John Goblin's father. And it's a former First Tee facility. And you know, long history of working with juniors. So in the past 12 to 14 years, there had been a couple who basically saw a struggling First Tee facility, and it was phasing out, and so they came in and they basically operated it along with a 501c3 called 4Kids. And they did a great job, and they served the public, and they had, anyway, so what we've done, we've carried on what they've done. We put our own twist on it. We have Saturday morning clinics for junior golfers. So they pay, you know, a small amount. They get instruction for an hour, and I involve some of the local high school players, local college players, and they come out and they help give it. You know, a lot of the high school players, they need volunteer hours anyway, so it works out great. So it helps them both out. So we do that, and then we have a spring and a fall middle school program, which is, you know, a lot of communities don't have that, so that's pretty cool too. So when they left, you know, that basically fell into me, and so we just did what we had to do to make it happen because it was too important to the community for it to fail. So are we going to talk later about PGA programs?
I mean, we can talk whenever.
Okay,
Whenever you're ready.
I'll keep going. So
This is a story that needed to be told, though.
yeah, I definitely need to tell their story. So Columbus is a military-rich community, formerly known as Fort Benning, now known as Fort Moore, but we have veterans everywhere. And we started a PGA Hope program in Columbus. At the time, we were one of, I think, 6 or 7 in the state. I believe there's about 14 now. But it's a great program. It's a great program for golf professionals. It's a great program for communities. It's a great program for clubs. So, you know, anybody that thinks they might be able to do it, I highly recommend it. Please call me. I would be happy to help you about it. But what started just prior to PJ Hope, what started was there was military veteran adaptive golf. So you have to, you go, you take the training, they teach you what to say, what not to say. You do your best not to do it. They remind you that, like, if a golf cart backfires, it could trigger PTSD with somebody. A lot of things that maybe we don't think about, but it's really there. But PJ Hope is wonderful, and some of you might have heard me say it before, but I'll say it again quickly. They get free golf lessons. They get free golf lessons. They are treated with respect. It is.
They come in like as a class, right? And then they go through a certain.
Yeah, we
number
do
of
4
programs?
6-week programs. They get discounted golf. I was actually doing free golf as long as I could get away with it, but they get discounted golf. They get occasional shirts and training aids and different things like that. But they get treated well. They get treated with respect, and we have 4 6-week programs is what we do in a year. You don't have to do 4. You can do whatever you want. But it's it's a wonderful experience. And so one of the veterans had said this, asked by another person, was asked for them to say, to tell me what these programs mean to you. And the answer says it all better than I can say it. The answer is, when I got out of the Army, I was angry and just existing. After these programs, I'm excited to play golf, and I'm living. So, when you see it, to hear me say it is one thing, but when you see it in action, and it's one of those opportunities where we get to do what we do, not just for gaining another member, whatever our metrics are, not just for that reason, but I might have changed someone's life. I might have impacted them. I might have given them a reason. 22 veterans a day commit suicide. So if you can create a situation where they're around other people, they have social interaction, they're getting off the couch, they're going to the golf course. I see it all the time. They put on their good golf clothes because it's PJ Hope Day, it's golf day. And then they talk around one another. And in the background, you can hear them practicing over at the fort. That's a 45 caliber. No, that's a 50 caliber. Anyway, whatever.
That's cool.
It is very cool. So, for my community, that's a tremendous way to serve our community. And of course, the PJ Hope is, has opened that door. And at the same time, PJ professionals are compensated as well.
Yeah, they pay the professionals to do this.
Golf professionals get paid to do it. So.
And now there's deferred comp that's part of that too. The deferred comp program, countless times, this is going to be an unpopular take, but countless times I sat in rooms like this and heard about these programs and thought, yeah, I'll get to it. But hearing that story, it's a great call to action. It reminds you that, this physically saves people's lives. And it's a group that deserves our service because they gave their service to us. We talked a lot in the last session about junior golf, right? That was a big topic in the last one. And we all know, it serves our community and it serves our memberships and constituents. But the HOPE program, physically saving people's lives. And then the PGA Pro gets compensated for it. Plus you get deferred comp, benefits to that. It's like kind of the ultimate no-brainer.
One last thing, and then I'll let these guys talk. So if you haven't served on the PGA board, if you haven't served on a committee or a board, you might not even know what the word is, but the word is inurement. And inurement is a bad word.
Yeah.
But because what it means is the PGA that has resources can't give it to the PGA member, just give it. But they've figured out a way how they can pay PGA professionals without it being a violation of the inurement, and a violation of inurement would mean the PGA of America would lose its tax-free status, which means basically it's very bad. It's devastating. So that can't happen. But the PGA of America found a way to take some of the resources and get them to the member, all the while doing something great for veterans.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, you inadvertently made I think more people, if I had not been involved with this board, I would not have known what that word meant. I would not have had a deeper appreciation for the programming that we do get, because again, for those of you who sat in here and listened to Lauren Court talk about PGA Junior League and hear how flexible of a program that is, a lot of this programming is a lot more flexible than I think maybe is assumed. And so, again, it's easier to kind of put together than I think is out there. So, Wes, actually, enough we talked about what you guys are doing, and you were humble about it and said, we're just in the beginning stages. There's a long way to go. But one of your facilities is doing some great work with.
Highlight Pamela? You can highlight Pamela.
Yeah, she already
She's sharing
talked.
the
She knows.
credit.
But tell us from an upper management standpoint, does the ownership ask about, your programming, and maybe not necessarily PGA, but
They do.
Yeah.
They do. I mean, I think it was, and this is obviously embarrassing from a PGA standpoint, but it had to have been about 6 or 7 years ago. MetLife came down and said, hey, did you know it was Women's Golf Month? I'm like, what? And that follows Family Golf Month. And so it was about 6 or 7 years ago we realized, okay, we're missing something. About the time Pamela came on board with us. And thankfully, I've got Ryan Rios, I've got Pamela, I've got Jose, I've got some people that are really dedicated to teaching, really find an enjoyment in teaching. And as golf started to explode at the lake, we got with you and we got with Keith over at Harbor Club, and we said, how do we create a PGA Junior League? Pamela created a great program, the 4-hole league. That's exploding. In fact, we can't find enough instructors to handle the demand she has, which I think she talked earlier about controlling and communicating about what we can do and what we can't do. And she even expanded it to a family golf day. We're continuing to look for those opportunities, and I can imagine Operation 36 and programs like that are going to continue to grow. But the PGA Junior League has been we were similar to what we were talking about earlier. Our average age was probably in that mid-60s. Over the last 4 years, I think the average new member is 48. And so we have young families, like Oconee Academy has been a big influence on what we do. And so having great professionals like Pamela and Jose and Ryan Rios to champion these programs, then the really fun part is, okay, how do you find the time on the golf course? How do you find time to do great things? And it was a couple years ago, we had a general manager that created the Major Tee-Off, which is a retail, but it allows us to expose kids to junior golf. It allows us to expose them to new brands and go out and hit balls and bouncy houses. And hey, it's the kickoff to major season, Masters Week, but it's the kickoff to our season as well. So we're continuing to look for ideas, and our management group has been very supportive of that.
Yeah, and I think that's that's such an interesting thing, because in our first breakout session, we really talked about the nuts and bolts of some of that.
Yeah.
But as you look at it from the facility operator and above standpoint, those programs hopefully are ways that you can show your ownership the value of your management.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even about the money or how much money you make or lose. It's about the goodwill you're doing in the community, and sometimes that weighs a lot more heavily than other things.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking from a Valdosta standpoint, the programming for your younger folks that are coming in, so at post-renovation, some people were not coming back, but you did gain younger families. How are you engaging those folks from your seat?
Well, I've gotten sort of a couple little thoughts that have been hit just listening here. One of the things that was cool about our renovations, we were able to incorporate a 6-hole short course into the renovation. And I love the idea of the 4-hole league, creating opportunities for golf to get played quicker and faster and more fun with a lot of less stress. So that is, I think, an important key for the PGA, us trying to figure out those opportunities moving forward as to how to get players through and getting them engaged at your facility without having to spend 4 to 6 hours on property. So that's a huge thing. But I'm going to pivot a little bit. One of the things that I was thinking when Jim was speaking, the PGA of America works hard to provide these platforms for us to use as tools, right? And I think a lot of times we get lost looking at all of it and trying to understand how that fits into us, right, as every day. What do we do to use those things? And one of the big things that I'm able to sell to help people come to my facility as part of their comp program is that junior league income, right?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Huge.
Huge. And so, I think if you really want to find opportunities to use those platforms to create dollars either for yourself or for your assistants, it's there, and you really need to get involved and look at it and study it and research it and understand how you can use those tools to help you, not only with your income, but the income of your assistants. So I can't stress that enough, to get involved with the stuff that's out there, because there's so much materials. There's just unbelievable opportunity out there for you to get involved, use these programs at your facilities, and create, some dynamic opportunities for sure.
Well, you kind of helped segue into an interesting topic, because I met Lauren, our player development for District 13 this morning with Doug Wirt. And
she's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome, and Doug's awesome. One of the things, my last 2 jobs before going into sales, I got, through Mike McCollum. He helped me through that process, and I would have never been successful without his guidance and without having him in my corner. And Doug has such a servant's heart. I mean, he almost tears up when he talks about what he does. It's unbelievable. I wish he was in the room. I give him a harder time about that. But so let's talk about, we already talked about going to get, certain employee categories. But, for going out on searches for, assistants, for going out to finding employees to help you, have any of you guys used that career services department for that?
For sure. I'm in the middle of a small executive search for my assistant, because if you're not using those resources, it's very difficult to find people, to pull up to even start the interview process. If I were to just throw it out on the job board, I may get 5, 6 people, and most of the time it's not. They're either overqualified. It's just very difficult to vet through that process. But like just doing the executive search for the assistants, Doug we had a roster of almost 25 applicants, and they're pre-vetting that for you and loading it into a system that's very easy for you to use. So I encourage, anytime you're looking for help, please engage Doug and Career Services, because it's light years better. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing that I had on the kind of topics was, so each one of you, Cary, you would manage all of the departments there at the facility. You guys are going to work with multiple different departments. And that's always it can be an interesting dynamic, because we're all, I think we're all service folks, but we come from, different directions in the service. So, just kind of want to talk about, let's start with management of the different departments and how it's going at your club, and, challenges or like great things that you see.
Yeah, obviously at a private club, we have to just take our dues dollar income and then figure out a way to spread it across all of the departments and make it fit, right? And there are no extra dollars, right? And I have to teach our employees that almost on a day-to-day basis, to get them to understand that, all of us are being paid by the last dollar in somebody's wallet, not the first one, right? So we're after the expendable income. And it's coming directly out of their pockets into a pool of money that is divided equally amongst all of our service and platforms. And so it's challenging because, at some point you're going to run out of money, and you're not going to be able to pay people what they are worth or what they deserve. And so obviously that's challenging and very difficult. But, we meet weekly and just try to figure out ways to create an environment that is suitable in relation to our mission. And so we just drive it home every week, how do we create that environment?
Yeah, and have you had to search for any other department heads recently?
You're always looking for food and beverage. Anybody who has food and beverage.
Of course, that was a softball.
It's hard, But and then when you do get the talent, and you do everything you can, scratch, claw, kick, scream to keep them. But then again, like I said, you only have in my arena, you only have a finite number of dollars, and it's difficult to raise dues, right?
Yep.
And one thing that we were able to institute that's been a huge thing is just create that inflationary raise every year. I mean, I think so many clubs forget to do that as part of their due structure, and they just don't have that automatic 3 to 5% yearly that helps you keep up with the trends. But you have to, or you're going to lose out.
Yeah. All right, so tell me how your structure works there and how the other departments, how you work with the other departments.
Yeah. So multi-facilities is a challenge because you can't be but in one place at a time, obviously. So I'll get to the point, but I'll say this quickly. So shortly after I began in my role, things were, we were making improvements. My board was generally happy, and at one point, out of nowhere, somebody says they made a motion that we give Jim a parking place. He ought to have a parking place. He's doing a good job. And I'm just second, all in favor, boom, done. All right, I don't have a parking place. I did not take advantage of it because what we all know is that if your car's not there one day because it's getting an oil change, and then another day you've run to the bank and somebody comes by twice during that week and they didn't see your car, Jim never works.
Yeah, the guy's never here.
He's never there.
Yeah.
So
Nobody in this room has ever heard that, I'm sure.
yeah, exactly. So I'm like, nope, I'm not falling for this one. So then comes in the multiple facility. So now they don't know where I've parked, but now they're coming to me. So-and-so at that place is never there. So I'm like, oh, God, how many times am I going to have to go down this? Anyway, so one thing that I do have, and it's a valuable tool for me, is I do have cameras that I can access at the other facilities. So I'm not Big Brother. I'm not looking in. Oh, hey, you hit the wrong button. I'm not doing that. But
pro shop.
but it is a good answer for me when somebody wants to talk about how many hours another employee's putting in at a facility where I am not at. So I'm like, well, I do have the cameras. When I check, everything seems to be fine. Not to mention, revenue is at an all-time high. Why are we talking about whether or not somebody works 39 or 41 hours? But anyway, it's inevitable. I can't make it go away. It's there. But that's one thing from a management perspective that I do.
That's an interesting one.
And that's what it stands PGA, right? Pro Gone Again, isn't that what it stands for?
Yeah.
I'm not following that. Not following
Yeah, I was about to say, where would your parking
Now
spot?
you set me up. I don't like
Where would your parking spot be, Wes?
I can't echo enough what we just heard. It's multi-facility can be challenging because you're nowhere and everywhere at the same time, and it's never counting where someone will call whatever facility and they'll say, oh, I think he just went here.
Yeah.
And then they call there, oh no, I think he's over there, and then I'm nowhere, right?
Yep.
But one of the greatest challenges and also one of the greatest successes or the enjoyment you have is you get to know a lot of people. You get to see your team grow and build and develop and get excited about things. And I've just found with multi-facilities, because I don't know everything, I don't try to know everything. I had a general manager once, he said, general manager kind of stance, I know general things about everything, but I'm not an expert in anything. And so I've learned that I've got to listen very closely to my head pros, to my assistants, address the things that are important to them. Again, we're going to be challenged. We can't just make changes just to make changes, but you kind of have to listen to them and see what their passions are and how you can use their experience and use their knowledge to help the club grow. And I think that's the best thing we can do is, in the role I'm in, is just to continue to listen and then be able to champion their thoughts when a senior manager or the ownership group wants to know more why we're doing things a certain way. Because I think it helps them understand, you understand more, and it helps, at least at Reynolds, it helps us grow pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why this, our committee kind of for 6 months went over, what would the topics that might be interesting. I really wanted to have this conversation from a, I guess, a higher level, because, not everybody gets to ask, the questions. Not everybody gets to sit in the seat that you guys have been, lucky to sit in, these in particular. No, I'm kidding. So, I think it's, it's important. I want to offer to those in attendance, if anybody has a question. I know nobody likes to answer their hand or raise their hand, but we've got a lot of knowledge up here, so I do want to open that up. But I think the ability for folks to hear some of this information. Again, I get a lot of feedback over the years of, well, Wes has got 7 golf courses. How is his world relevant to mine? But again, hearing the stories, you never know what kind of insights you can gain. And I know whenever I come to these meetings, whenever we're clocking out and we get to have some communal time, I gain more from that in-person communication with guys like y'all. And so, I hope, we was talking to John Godwin earlier today, right before this started, and I said, man, I hope that people find value in these in-person times together, to hear the stories and not necessarily think, I'm going to hear about what next program I'm going to get. Hopefully you do, but also, there's a wealth of knowledge in our business that deserves to be shared, and that's why we're big on these regionally produced content, so we can hear from our peers. So if you have any questions for any of these guys, pick up the phone, call them. They have great staffs, and hopefully you'll get to be in community with those folks. So I want to thank you guys for being involved in this, and thank all of you for attending.
Awesome.
Cool.